Hi, I'm Greg.
I'm Dee.
Hi, my name is Emily.
Hi, I'm Isaac.
Hi, I'm Eli.
Hi, my name is Kate. Hi, my name's Mussy.
We are SFRE,
Swift Family Ropes and Expedition.
We left our traditional 9-to-5 jobs and way of being a family to hit the road full time.
We are traveling throughout the country to show our children the beauty of every state. We are spending so much more time with them and just living a new way of life. I now work as a traveling nurse, and my husband stays home with the kids and does road schooling, which is a whole new experience.
Welcome back to SFRE. If this is your first time here, please take the time to click the subscribe button and like any of our videos. We're just wrapping up season 1 in our tour of the Northeast, so check that out. And we're getting ready to launch into season 2, but before we did that, we wanted to do something a little bit different. Our rig's in the shop right now for some maintenance, so we're taking up hotel living, and Dee and I were reflecting back on season 1 and all the things that we've learned, all the joys, the challenges, and we wanted to do something kind of fun. We have both made a top 10 list, the top 10 things we've learned in season 1, and we did it separately so we couldn't compare notes, and now we're merging it into one video.
You can probably tell this is not an RV, but more to come on that later. What we thought we would do this week is give you our top 10 things that we've learned while on our travel so far. Here we go.
The first thing I've learned in season 1 is how incredibly helpful the RV community is. Whether it was the guy who stopped his family walk to check in on my electrical needs in Buffalo, or all the way till the end of the season when I got pulled into a cul-de-sac I probably shouldn't have in Babbler State Park, and everybody came out who was down in that cul-de-sac to move their cars and to make sure that I could get my monster fifth wheel turned around. Yeah, we're in the clear. Well, we got stuck at Babbler State Park because the parking is just too narrow. And we got a new spot, but we had a hard time getting turned around, so now we are. It's different than parochial neighborhood life. It just seems like every time you turn around, somebody's checking in with you to see, are you okay? Is there any way I can help you? Because they know how demanding or how difficult RVing and traveling full-time can be. Even at gas stations and rest stops, we found that RVers and travelers look out for each other. So at this rest stop, a guy just came up to me and said, hey, watch your kids. Somebody just tried to kidnap mine. It was a nice reminder. We always have our kids go. We have a rule, if one goes to the bathroom, we all go. And then we go in pairs. The littles are never alone. But how cool that here somebody was just looking out for us. You know, they saw we had kids and saw some inappropriate behavior by someone beckoning other children. And he just immediately came to me and said, hey, I want you to know what happened. I think they kicked him out, but it's just a nice reminder. And our kids were, paired up and following our family rules, but it's just one of those wake-up calls that even though the RV community is incredible and you find such amazing hospitality at certain businesses that cater to travelers around the country, you still have to keep your eyes open. You can't relax. You can't let your guard down because it just takes one moment. Right now, I'm traveling alone because Dee's already in Los Angeles, so it takes just a little extra vigilance. Our older kids are pretty darn good, especially our oldest, Emily. She is a rock star babysitter and she just pays attention to so many details. But thanks to the stranger who gave us fair warning and a nice reminder about child safety.
Number 1, you can't take it with you. We had such a difficult time simply giving away or selling the things that we couldn't take with us on the RV and we couldn't take us with us traveling. So bottom line, the kids don't need as many toys. The parents don't need as many clothes. The big house, the nice car. We just didn't need it because what we decided to invest in was lifelong memories.
The next thing I learned is to preview parks that you want to stay in, especially state parks. I had heard big rigs sometimes have challenges in state parks, but that there's plenty of them that there's no problem whatsoever. I was recently at a state park and I noticed, just while I was talking to the campground host, at least 6 cars came in and just said, "Hey, do you mind if I take a quick tour?" I thought to myself, that would have been a really good idea before I got my 5th wheel stuck in that cul-de-sac down there. Also, actually visiting the park seems more helpful. Some people will use drone footage or Google Earth or some sort of map application like that, but they're not always true to life. Going there, actually boots on the ground and looking at it, because you know your rig, your truck, you know the space that your family needs, and footage from a drone not necessarily gonna nail it down for you. So actually go to the park in person and imagine how your family would set up in a spot. This is particularly true for families like us that are gonna plunk it down for months at a time, seasonals. If you're in for a night and out, not as big of a deal.
Tip number 2, the experience is worth the investment. So there's a lot of time, money, stress involved in this change. This ready to go on the journey phase will seem like an insurmountable task, but it's worth it. The experience and the beauty that you see, the relationships that you work on, it's all worth the investment. It is worth it, I promise.
The next lesson I learned in season 1 is that leveling and stabilizing jacks on a 5th wheel sit lower to the ground than you think. When we were trying to park in the dark last night, we didn't have the light to see that one of our jacks was running ground. We had a little soft ground in one of the spots we were trying to get in, and even with flashlights, you can't. It's just hard to. This is why it's not a good idea to park in the dark, you know. And so we bent one of our leveling jacks right there. That guy will not. You see those blocks? It won't touch those blocks. It's a rear stabilizer. It helps you come off your tires, and it helps the auto leveling system to get level. And that was running aground, uneven ground, soft ground, and we couldn't see. And there was resistance. You stop, you get out and look around, and it's too late. You know, our damage is already done.
Number 3, what we learned is RVing can get expensive. You think, oh, I don't have a house payment anymore. I don't have all these things. But it's the RV itself, all the fluff that goes with it, the tools that you need, the truck that you need, staying every night if you are not the boondocking type. It can get expensive. So you can do it as expensive or as cheap as you would like it to be. But don't go into it thinking there's no cost.
When I brought my rig into the dealership to have it inspected and looked at and just get all the maintenance issues answered, was when I realized that not all RV dealerships are out just to make a sale. The folks where we took our rig at McDowell South RV in Bonne Terre, Missouri, have gone above and beyond. Well, we've returned back home to St. Louis, and we're back to where we bought the RV. We had an awning that needed to be fixed, and some bent leveling jacks, and some door trim, and some minor things that are just normal wear and tear when you own an RV. So we're gonna go in here and talk to the service manager now that they've had a chance to look at it and see what's going on. We needed to be on our rig for a while to deal with an insurance claim, the results of which are not completed. They set us up with full electric, plumbing, sewer on site, and worked around us while we did what we needed to do to get our rig ready for the next step of the insurance process. It was seriously unbelievable.
Tip number 4, it is okay to depend on other people. This was very difficult for me, but what you learn is you don't have the space to entertain that you used to, and if something happens to your rig, you need to find a place to be. So we have run into several occasions where we had to depend on other people to help us park, to provide us a place to stay for the night, or just to help us with a tire. So it's okay to depend on other people.
The next thing I learned in season 1 is how much RV living helps you to pay attention to your footprint. It's rewarding to pay attention to how many resources you're using and what kind of impact you're making on the earth, the environment, your neighbors, and the people around you. There's nothing like the threat of running out of fresh water to make you pay attention to how long you run the water in the shower or when you do the dishes.
Number 5, the RV community is ridiculous.
I'm out here hooking up my hose. We're fortunate that we're very close to the freshwater line, which is right here, right behind me. And that green hose belongs to Becky. Becky noticed, she works here, and she saw me out here. She helped us move in last night in the dark too, because we made that mistake again of getting here at dark, and it's just harder to hitch a fifth wheel, unhitch and all that in the dark. And she saw that my 50-foot hose wasn't long enough, and before I could even say anything, she said, "Do you need an extension?" She knew it. She saw what I was doing. And I said, "You are the most thoughtful woman. What is your name?" "I'm Greg." And she said, "I'm Becky." I said, "It's like you've been working on a campsite for a while." She drives down to her camper and gets her extension and brings it right back and says, "You hold on to it to the end of the week. You're going to need that again with 5 kids." And I said, "All right, I will." We're talking, and she started to tell me the story of how just 2 weeks ago her husband died in a UTV accident, and she just had the most joy on her face to be able to help us. Not a big deal. A lot of times when people go through loss like that, they're struggling and kind of dealing with, "Oh, poor me," and I'm shocked. I am just overcome with the generosity and kindness of a woman who just suffered such a terrible loss. She's been married almost 50 years, and she just couldn't wait to help us. This just goes to show you, the kindness of the camping community and the way that we're all looking out for each other. Full-time, and it's not easy. It's definitely comes with challenges. And we learned some lessons yesterday and today moving into Babbler State Park, but the biggest one I learned is about the kindness of the camping community. And it's my hope that our family can be like that in the toughest times. I mean, that's one of the greatest challenges we face is the loss of somebody we love. And here's this woman 2 weeks after her husband was crushed while a 15-year-old was driving the UTV, and she's just looking for ways to help. She's looking for people who could use a lift, could use a little support. And she's, the director of this camp, the manager of the sites here at this big camp, and above and beyond. So if you're thinking about full-time in it, you're worried about all the little things that can go wrong and the things that can happen, there's a lot of people out there, neighbors, people who are doing this lifestyle too, even part-timers. Everybody steps forward. It's like one big family.
I love this. I love this. I love this community.
The next thing I learned in season 1 is that harvest hosts are absolutely the bomb. Campgrounds are awesome. Some of the amenities can be spectacular and impressive. Harvest hosts are family-owned orchards, farms, wineries, and other businesses that are being creative in bringing more business. They open up their driveway or a field for RVers and full-timers to park, which is pretty awesome. There's an understanding in the community that you'll patronize their dairy or whatever products they've got on hand. And so often it can be a break even financially between what you would spend at an RV park and what you might spend shopping at a harvest host, but it can be a lot more fun.
Number 6, The flexibility that we've gained from having to adapt and change and grow in this experience bodes very well for us in the future, because this allows us to dream bigger for bigger and better things, and allows us to not put up the walls and say, oh, no, we can't do that. We say instead, okay, that might work. This might be possible. So the flexibility just allows you to dream bigger for your future.
When the expectations are super high, it's hard to meet or surpass them. So if you're going to an amusement park, or you're going to take surfing lessons, or you're going to swim in the ocean for the first time, the expectations for the family might be really high. And so when the event, the outing goes really well, you've met expectations. But when you and the family are doing something spontaneous and you don't have time to raise the expectations, sometimes these are the best outings. Recently at a harvest host near Philadelphia, this is what happened to us. We were going to a dairy farm, and our kids had no idea what to expect. And they haven't stopped talking about it since that day. They got to learn all kinds of things. You might have seen that in our Harvest Host episode. If not, check that out. This is why it's been so key to be open to spontaneous changes in the itinerary.
The small space that we have as an RV really accentuates all habits, good and bad. So if we are having a bad day, everybody's having a bad day. If we're having a good day, everybody's having a good day. So this kind of reverberates throughout the family, and actually we enjoy it. We have to work really hard to keep the family vibe very positive.
This is what our mornings are like. We stop everything we're doing when somebody wakes up just to have that precious moment when the 6-year-old wants to be held like she's 2.
The next thing I learned in season 1 is that having friends when you're visiting and touring strange cities takes the stress level down. Traveling can already be a white-knuckling experience, especially traveling with children. And then when it's time to tour, it seems like it takes most of your energy just not to lose one of your kids. But to have an itinerary and pay attention to a new subway system, or whatever that city has to offer, can be very stressful. So meeting up with locals who've been there, done that, is huge. It's more fun to meet up with old friends and get the inside scoop on where to eat and what to do. The local feedback is always the best when touring a new city. So when you are heading to a new outing or new location, if you can meet up with friends in the region, it'll take the game to the next level.
Oh, really important. Don't park your rig in the dark. Don't do it. More to come on that later. Ask me how I know.
When we first started RVing, I thought the smell of a campfire would drive me absolutely crazy. I thought I would get up from s'more time or cooking hot dogs and rush inside to take a shower and clean my clothes. But it's been a nice surprise that it's grown on me. And I think the reason why I now love the smell of a campfire is because it represents adventure. It represents travel. When I smell like a campfire, I think of all the stories my kids have told around that campfire, all the laughs, all the spontaneous moments we've had sharing the adventure from that day. I used to think campfire meant being cold and stinky and eating food that's not good for me. But now it's a time to reminisce as a family and to be fully present to my kids, to watch them learn and to listen to them, watch them grow right before our eyes.
Number 9. Kids really don't need toys. We gave the children a box to fill. Whatever can fit in that box, they could take. Do you know how often they played with those toys? 0. 0 times. They were too busy. So until I said, you haven't even touched your toys, and then they got them out. But kids don't need toys. Good to remember at this time of year. I mean, obviously, I want them to have fun, have some stuff for the rainy days, but it's just like us. We don't need toys either. It helps so much to just be able to have that opportunity to spend with each other, to talk to each other, and you don't need as much as you think.
The last lesson I learned in season 1 is that although you can drive a rig at night, when you're 60 feet long, if you can avoid it, you should. For us, the challenge was really just parking at night, not hitting something, or everything taking 5 times as long because you can't see. And that's just frustration nobody needs. So we've learned in season 1 to keep our travel days shorter, not to drive beyond 5 or 6 hours, stay out of rush hour, and travel, generally speaking, between 10 and 3. That's kind of the sweet spot, no matter where you're at in the country.
Number 10, something I have learned for me personally, simplicity is a recipe for success in whatever you would like to do. So cooking, basic, good, fresh ingredients will win over an elaborate recipe any day. So we depend on that in the RV. Less is more. The simpler you make it, the more comfortable you are, the less you have to do, the more time you get to spend on what you want to be successful in, which is personal relationships, personal hobbies, goals of climbing a mountain or going fishing. Simplicity equals success.
Well, there you have it, our top 10 lessons we learned in season 1 from SFRE. More joyful adventures coming down the pipe for season 2 as we are heading west. We're going to have a brief layover in our hometown of St. Louis for some rig repairs, catching up with friends and family, and refueling a base camp. Please join us again next week as the adventure continues. Bye.